Chapter 33, The Same Mistake Twice. The atmosphere felt calm and cold. Way too cold. There were no voices, no footsteps, no wind. Just a heavy, muffled silence, like even the weather had given up on moving. Boom. Whoosh. A sharp gust of wind sliced through the air, making Yen's hair lift and her uniform whip around like it was about to be ripped off her body. HRRRK. Damn. The gust vanished as quickly as it came, taking with it the thick mist that had been hiding everything. Right after that, the world revealed itself completely. Yen took 2 steps back, more by instinct than fear. The hollow sound under her feet confirmed what her eyes had already seen. Again? There was no ground, no stone, no signs of life. Just a blue-gray sheet of ice stretching beneath her feet like a dead mirror, reflecting a pale, lifeless sky. Lake of Virgil, again? Unlike what some might expect, the place brought Yen a strangely comforting feeling. As if being there, alone in that frozen emptiness, was better than dealing with whatever waited outside. What's it going to be this time? Her eyes narrowed as she spotted something up ahead. In the middle of that mirrored emptiness, a crystal structure rose imposingly. It shimmered like the ice had been carved by time itself. Yen stood silently for a moment, staring at that lonely silhouette in the center of the lake. Then, she let out a long sigh and began walking toward it. Crack! Crack! As she walked, her steps made dry cracking sounds, like tiny fractures spreading under her feet with each move. And just as expected, the cold started to take effect. But it wasn't just regular cold. It wasn't just the chill of the ground or a breeze brushing her skin. Yen felt like the air itself wanted to dig into her chest. And the closer she got, the more intense it became, trying to fill every hollow space inside her. It was uncomfortable. But in a way, not hostile. As if the cold had always been an old companion. I just hope it doesn't take as long as last time. As she drew near, the frozen figure started to become visible in the center of the vastness. A giant ice crystal stood tall with sharp spikes pointing to the sky. Inside, someone appeared to be standing, arms relaxed at their sides, head slightly tilted, as if in a deep state of peace. The face wasn't visible. The ice itself seemed to hide whatever was in there. Yen stopped, staring at the giant ice crystal in front of her. What do you want from me? The question echoed through the vastness without any reply. Until, in the middle of the silence that seemed eternal, a voice finally broke through the void. What do you mean, what? I just want to help you, the voice came from behind. And it was familiar enough to be unsettling, like it poked at something she didn't want to remember. Yen simply turned around with the same calm as always. No surprise, no reaction. Just a slow glance, like she already knew exactly what she'd find. In front of her stood a boy. He had soft features, hair similar to hers, deep eyes, and pale skin. Almost like a mirror of her childhood had come to life. I thought I told you to stop using that look. Seriously? I thought this one made you feel better. He ran his fingers through his own hair, looking at it with mockery. I mean, it's better than staring at an ice cube all the time, shut up. Oh. Sorry if I offended you. If you're bored, go do something else. Leave me alone. TSK. Wow, you're so boring, shh. The figure in front of her froze completely, like the very presence had been swallowed by the environment. But even frozen, his voice still echoed from all directions, like a constant whisper. You should stop being so arrogant, and just accept it already. Yen didn't move. Her expression didn't change. She was used to those kinds of provocations. Ignoring the voice, she turned her gaze back to the ice crystal in the middle of the plain. The silhouette inside was identical to the boy who had just mocked her, only lifeless. Like it was something lost a long time ago. TSK. TSK, looks like your weakness made you repeat the same mistake. Suddenly, without any warning, she felt something touch her shoulder. It was a light touch, almost weightless, but that wasn't what made her senses freeze. It was the presence behind her, something she felt even before the voice appeared. The voice came as a whisper, so close she could feel the warmth of the breath. How does it feel? The moment she heard that voice, Yen turned her head immediately, as if something deep inside had recognized the tone before the words were even finished. To know you made the same mistake twice? She pushed the arm away with a sharp motion, spinning her body around. In front of her stood a familiar figure. Red eyes. White hair. But this time, the goofy smile, the carefree posture, the impulsive energy, none of that was there. Yen woke up. There was a slight dampness in the air, like the rain had stopped just a few minutes ago. The scent of wet earth still lingered, mixed with a faint trace of old wood. It wasn't cold, but it wasn't warm enough to be uncomfortable either. The air was mild, cozy even. That deceptive kind of temperature that made anyone want to go right back to sleep. Yen remained lying still for a few seconds. Her gaze was distant, staring at nothing, like the world was still too far away to reach. She blinked slowly. Once, then again. Until she let out a breath with more force, almost like releasing something that had been stuck in her throat. She sat up slowly, feeling a slight stiffness protest in her body. Her dark hair spilled over her face, messy and tangled, but she didn't care. She stayed there, sitting on the edge of the bed for a few moments, letting her mind catch up with her body, shaking off the weight of drowsiness that still clung to her shoulders. She raised her arms and stretched with a soft, muffled sound of discomfort. MH, 3:26 p.m., looks like I overslept. She finally stood up slowly, letting out a lazy yawn. Guess I'll take a shower. Yen walked to the bathroom without any rush, feeling her bare feet touch the cold floor, enough to wake her up more than she wanted. I really hate the cold. The hot water hit her skin like a liquid blanket, filling the bathroom with the constant, muffled sound of water splashing against the tiles. For a few minutes, everything went quiet again. A kind of inner silence, strangely comfortable. How was class today, I wonder? She wasn't the type to skip classes. That had been true since childhood, when she was forced to attend endless sessions about elemental magic structures. So boring even the private tutors seemed like they wanted to drop dead from it. But that day, she just didn't want to be anywhere. The theory classes would only go over topics she already knew inside out, so she decided not to attend any of them. Her fingers slowly slid through the wet strands, parting them and massaging her scalp. The steam from the hot water wrapped around her face, bringing a momentary daze. Yen's mind began to clear again, free from any distractions, or at least, that's what she kept telling herself. She wasn't worried. He was just an idiot who would show up later to bother her again, like he always did. Huff, what if he doesn't come back? Elena had spoken with so much certainty that he would. Like she truly believed it. Yen wanted to believe it too. She really did. But she bit her lip lightly. That dumb smile of his, for a second, it had convinced her. Just 1 second was enough to make her believe he'd come back right after. And the result? She made the same mistake again. TSK. I'm not going to care about this. She stepped out of the shower and wrapped the towel around her body. She dried her hair with firm, repetitive movements, then tied it back in a simple way, more out of habit than vanity. As she left the bathroom, the steam escaped with her. Her eyes went straight to the clock on the wall, 3:41 p.m., with automatic movements. She got dressed slowly, not letting any thoughts take up space in her mind. It was just the routine taking over. Finally, she picked up the bracelet from the table and clasped it around her wrist. The small screen still showed her name and the last score recorded in the isolated training room. She stared at it for a few seconds, and the memory came back. The idiot who made her fight a level 2 mannequin even when she could barely stand. That idiot. The screen went dark. The reflection on the black surface showed only her own face. She stared at herself for a few moments. Then, turned away. If he wants to show up, let him. Chapter 34, I'm not dead yet. Plop, plop. The sound of dripping water echoed through the space, each drop hitting the rocky ground with a muffled, damp thud. Plop. Plop. More drops. A steady, rhythmic sound, like a monotonous melody repeated by nature in its ancient boredom. The small cave where the sound echoed was cold and damp, filled with the heavy, dense air of places forgotten by the world. Above, old cracks in the ceiling let sunlight slip through the stones. One of these openings, longer and lower than the others, projected a golden beam that cut diagonally through the space, slicing through dust and silence until it touched the face of a boy lying on the ground. He was lying on his back, with only the sunlight hitting his face. He stayed still for a few moments. Until, finally, his eyes moved. His eyelids trembled slightly, and a faint breath slipped through his parted lips. Ha, the sound was weak, almost like it was returning to him after a long time. He winced, bothered by the light hitting his eyes. He turned his face slightly, trying to escape the brightness and fall back into his deep sleep. Hey, hello, don't fall asleep again. You're not home. Who was calling him? And who needed to be home to sleep anyway? He was a free soul, he could sleep anywhere, so why all the fuss? Ah, you idiot. I'm talking to you. MNNN. Damn, Kane finally opened his eyes. His expression looked like someone who had been woken up by a rock to the head and had slept less than 2 hours over 3 days. With furrowed brows, half-closed eyes, and a long sigh, he was clearly showing exhaustion, fatigue, and deep weariness. But unlike a cup of coffee or a splash of cold water, Kane didn't need any of that to be fully awake. As soon as he opened his eyes, it took less than 2 seconds before he tried to sit up, partially remembering what had happened. HNNNGH. What the hell? But, the moment he tried to move, a sharp pain shot through his entire body. HRRGH. Ugh, my whole body's locked up. He tried to lift himself again, but his arms gave out and he collapsed back onto the ground, panting. Take it easy, hero, gravity clearly won this time. As soon as he heard the voice, Kane looked to the left, nothing, to the right, same thing. Just the cave. I'm right here, you idiot. That's when Saris finally appeared in front of him, as if she had come out of some invisibility spell. Where did she come from? Still lying down, Kane watched her floating above him with crossed arms. Where am I? And what happened? I think you should thank me first. Damn, right, yes, thank me, I wasn't talking to you. Saris started rambling, but he wasn't listening anymore. He had finally remembered everything that happened. He had run straight into the dark mage half-mask. Then ended up fleeing from him with everything he had, running into the forest woods, where Saris usually stayed. He wasn't sure it would work, but he bet everything on it. He trusted that if he could just reach her, Saris could use her mana to hide him. That was a common trait among certain old fairies. It wasn't ordinary invisibility, but something much deeper. Fairies lived on different planes than humans, so some of them could completely camouflage a presence, not just hiding the body but erasing any trace of magical perception. As if the target simply ceased to exist, even while still being there. But the plan, which had been carefully calculated at first, began to fall apart on the way to the ferry. He had burned through all the mana in his core and passed out while falling into the lake. TSK. Ah, my plan was perfect. Yeah, right, you planned it all so well, the perfect suicide. He looked at the fairy sitting midair with her arms crossed, confirming that as if that had really been his intention. In the end, it looked like he got the luck he wished for after all. Thanks to Saris, he was alive, half sane, in one piece, well, maybe a little broken. Well, broken is still better than dead. By the way, the fairy's non-stop voice cut through his thoughts, pulling him back to the cave. How long have I been asleep? My watch says it's 8:32 in the morning, so probably, oh wait, Saris raised her wrist dramatically, staring at nothing like she actually had a watch there. But obviously, she didn't. You want the time in hours, or in how many times you muttered damn while you were sleeping? Kane let out a tired sigh. Alright, got it. I saved you from the fall and brought you here yesterday afternoon. I already told you, you should be thanking me. Yesterday? So it's already been a day? Well, blame yourself for that. What happened to the dark mage? On him? Sarah spun around midair with a dramatic look, puffing out her chest. Ah, well, of course I defeated him. You? Yes. He had his back turned, and he was tired. I came up from behind with a light sword in Shein. Cut off his arm with a sword flying like a boomerang. Then I made ice spears and did Aaron show up? Ha? Who? You don't believe me? Cain closed his eyes for a moment, taking a deep breath. Light magic. Ice stakes. And a light sword that flew back like a boomerang. Obviously. Aaron was the only mage in the academy with that kind of power at this point in the story. What made her go into the forest? In the original episode, Cain knew only the magic knights and a few teachers would show up to rescue the students. Aaron wasn't supposed to be involved. Maybe Elena is the one changing things. Cain tried to sit up again. HNNNGH. Feels like my body's falling apart. If you can't stand up, then just stay put, idiot. Ha, he gave up. Exhaled hard and lay back down, staring at the cave ceiling. If I stay here, I think I'll die. I didn't bring you to some random place, you know? The environment here is strong in pure mana. You, who can absorb mana, will recover faster. Is that why I can see you even without mana? Don't be dumb. If that were the case, all mages would live in places like this just to chat with fairies like me. Cain looked at her, talking like chatting with fairies was some great achievement. But he just blinked slowly, unimpressed. To him, it felt as dull and ordinary as talking to a noisy bird that wouldn't leave. Actually, I injected my mana into you so you wouldn't die like a loser. And, obviously, my mana is pure, which is why you're able to see me. Like hallucinogens? Hey! I'm not a hallucination. Sure. So I'll be able to get up in a few hours? Probably, yeah. Cain took a deep breath, relaxing his shoulders against the stone floor. When I recover, if I run into that damned masked mage again, I can already taste the victory. Of pine coffins, maybe. That damn fairy. No matter what he said, she always had a comeback ready on the tip of her tongue. Maybe that's why, to him, talking to fairies didn't feel magical at all. If Saris were like those gentle creatures in books, would he feel differently? He turned his face slightly and watched her flying in short circles, rambling nonstop, like she was trying to make up for a conversation she never had with anyone. She talked to herself, like his presence was just an excuse to let the words out. Even though her tongue was sharper than necessary, Cain knew he couldn't complain. She really had saved him. I already told you, you should kneel and beg to be my servant among humans. It's a cursed race, but maybe you. Hey, Cain interrupted her with a quiet voice, still lying down but staring straight at her. Saris froze midair, frowning. What? Gonna call me a liar again or complain about something? Cain took a deep breath, looked away for a second, then looked back at her. Thanks. If it weren't for you, I'd probably still be floating in that lake. For a moment, Saris didn't move. Silence hit like a strange wave between the two. She blinked once, twice, 3 times, then quickly crossed her arms and turned her face away with a visibly annoyed expression. TSK. Idiot. I don't need your thanks. Maybe, for someone who had lived so long, the gratitude of some random human didn't mean much. But the tiny red tint on her ears said otherwise. Don't look at me like that. It was just a whim. Nothing special. Cain let out a muffled laugh. Got it, good, because I would have done the same for any random being, half drowning, falling from the sky and begging for help with their face stuck in the water. Saris turned to face Cain again, ready to keep justifying herself, but the words died in her throat. Cain had his eyes closed. The calm and steady rhythm of his breathing made it clear he had passed out again. This idiot. Saris hovered there for a few seconds, staring at him in silence. Looks like you really tried to kill yourself.